So good afternoon, everyone. We're so pleased today to be able to have a conversation here on the arts and cultural scene in Bahrain, and it's a real privilege to have with us Shaikha Hala bint Mohammed Al Khalifa. Shaikha Hala is the Director of Culture and Arts for the Bahrain Authority for Culture and Antiquities, and she did her studies here in the States, or at least some of her initial studies, from the Museum of Fine Arts School and Tufts University in Boston. We were just discussing, and she was telling me that she had the opportunity to get into both the intellectual side and the more tactile side in her studies, to do a little bit of both. Then she went on to study in London at the Slade School of Fine Arts, and she's had a lot of her professional experience then both teaching in Bahrain at the University of Bahrain, and then also working in Qatar in Doha, both at the Museum of Islamic Art, where she was involved in a lot of public education and outreach. And then also where she joined the Public Art Department as education manager and curator at the Fire Station, an artist in resident program there in Doha, before returning back now to Bahrain. And we're just so excited to have her with us to share some of her insights about the developments of this art and cultural scene and some of the things that Bahrain is doing. So thank you. I'll just turn it over to you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much, Kristin. I'm very happy to be with everyone today. Thank you very much for coming. I'm especially, happy to see that the group is small and intimate. So I hope I don't bore you. I'm going to give you an overview of who I am, what we do, what the Bahrain Authority for Culture and Antiquity does in the Kingdom of Bahrain. And once again, thank you very much, Your Excellency, and everyone here for coming. I'll start my presentation with a small video, and the video is called Our Year of Archaeology. Under the authority of the Culture and Antiquities in Bahrain, every year we have a theme, we have a title that everyone works with. So this year it's our Year of Archaeology, and most of our programming highlights the importance of archaeology and preserving who we are, our heritage, our history in the Kingdom of Bahrain. So as you saw, it was an overview of so many interesting historic sites. What really makes my heart warm, really, to see that the land of Bahrain, with all its richness and legacies, the many civilizations that came through this wonderful, diverse island. And our year of archaeology, Atharuna and Hakat, highlights the importance of people who came, who shared the civilizations that ran across our beautiful country. As Kristin was saying, I'm an artist in practice, and I consider myself to be extremely lucky to be working in the field of arts and culture. And for me, I've always known that me being an artist, or my love for art, would never kind of be able to stand on its own. I find it to be very important to be doing something for my society, for my community, and my formal job is something very important for me. I cannot be an artist and have the privilege to be working in my studio and just doing and producing my work. I think my professional career really reflects and make me more complete, if I can say. So I think the both roles combined really give me, as a person, a great pleasure to be doing the two, and hopefully being able to continue to do that. As I want to diverse a little bit from archaeology and our year of archaeology to the importance of the art scene in the Kingdom of Bahrain.
Can I ask you before you move on? Please. I just had one question, because I'm sure everyone was struck by the image of these mounds, the burial mounds. And I know that's something, when I had the opportunity to live in Bahrain, that really struck me. You see these throughout Bahrain, and of course interjected very much amongst where different people are living. Can you tell us a little bit about them, and also just how you've been seeking to preserve them, or how do you deal with preserving them as they're kind of present there in the context of Bahraini life? Yeah.
The burial mounds are very unique to Bahrain. I haven't seen anything like them really, and the institution, the Bahrain Authority for Culture and Antiquity, actually preserves them, and there is a project to create an information center, a museum around the burial mounds, and to highlight their importance. But Bahrain was a burial ground, and it was called Ard al-Khulud, the land of eternity, and we had many dead bodies coming from Mesopotamia, from different parts of neighboring countries, to come and lay there, be rested in Ard al-Khulud, or the land of eternal youth. So these mounds are very characteristics to in that scene in Bahrain. The preservation of sites is very important. As you saw in the video, there was the UNESCO World Heritage Site, Qal'at al-Bahrain, which is actually under the umbrella of the UNESCO World Heritage Sites. The Pearling Path, which is due to open in 2018, is another very important UNESCO World Heritage Site as well. And that tells a story of the pearling history through preservations of homes of so many people working in the pearling trade, from Nukhada, which is the head of the ship, where he would be, the merchant where he'd be selling and buying pearls, to the Naham, who was the singer on the pearling ships. And this was the backbone of our society. This was how people survived, and it was a whole dynamic community. And I actually, at the end of this presentation, I'll share a video with everyone of something that I've done as a tribute to the legacy of the pearl diving in Bahrain.
Did you want to tell us now, or I don't know if you're going to hold it? You said that Bahrain has a special year coming up.
Yes,
linked to that.
Exactly. So next year, 2018, is we're celebrating Muharraq as the capital of Islamic culture, and it's highlighting so many elements of Islamic nations, Islamic culture, calligraphy, music, history, and us in the cultural institution, we're working so hard in putting this year together. But at the end of 2018, it will be the opening of the Pearling Path. So it's an open invitation to everyone to, hopefully you come and visit Bahrain and just be linked to what's happening within that year of culture. I'll leave here if I can and share the the other video. So I wanted to share a video that has been done commemorating the 40th anniversary of the international an annual art exhibition that we have. So as an artist, I'm very proud that this annual show has been going on for 40 years. This video is from the 40th year, but this year we're celebrating the 44th year. So, you know, it's great because it brings together so many artists in Bahrain to show under the umbrella of the Arts and Culture Authority. It's very well attended, and I'll show you pictures, but I wanted to share this. But this is an example of some of the artworks shown in last year's exhibition. And these black and white sales were done by a fantastic artist called Ghada Khunji. And the photo on the right with Nadir Abbasi, he won the first prize. This annual show, there's a policy of accepting art, so people would apply, and you know, and there's a jury, and there are 3 awards. There's the Adana Award. Adana is a name of one of the biggest pearls, or a big pearl would be called Adana. So the Dana Award is a monetary award, so the artist would get some money. And the second award would be for us to set up a solo exhibition for the artist winning the second award. The third award is towards the young and upcoming artists. So the prize would be sending him or her to a residency anywhere in the world that we, connect with and we can send the artist to. So these are, the prizes that accompany the annual show.
Can you tell us about the sales? How large were they?
They were really large. They're made out of cloth material. Yes, and they were placed at the exhibition took place in the National Theatre, which is a fantastic building with a very big hall that suited the number of artists. And you saw the diversity of mediums. I mean, Bahrain is a tiny little place, but it's so rich, and so many artists live and work with us. So this is a group photo of all the artists participating with His Royal Highness the Prime Minister. And I wanted to share with you that His Royal Highness Shaikha Khalifa actually opened the exhibition for us in Bahrain since its beginnings, so since the 70s, and we have documentation of these openings. And he's his attention to the artists, and he would stand and remember your work from previous years and ask you questions, and I remember that, and I certainly had that conversation with him. So it's it gives us great support as well to have him with us. So we came up with an idea called Foodist Culture, and it was an initiative that we started up with 6 artists, 6 chefs. We brought them together and we said, have a dialogue and let's see what you can do, and let's see how food reflects art and how art reflects food. So this was, it was fantastic, and there was a lot of dynamic expression that happened out of this initiative, and I wanted to share a couple of things with you. There was 2 editions. The 3rd one is on its way, and I think we'll continue with it because every year we get to explore new things. So I'm going to share 2 videos of Foodist Culture.
2 people of different creative mediums come together, and there's this amazing explosion of creative force.
It's about how visual and sensory pleasure is all the same, and how you can be inspired by both.
When I was first exposed to Mohammed Al Khalifa's work, I was blown away by the scale of the work.
I'm very excited to be partnered with Bassam.
For a chef, it's always an honor to be able to explore somebody else's creative process.
I'm expecting to have a lot of fun.
Their main theme was beats. So they selected beats to be the star of their collaboration. But the exciting thing about Foodist Culture is that the National Museum opens its door every evening for audiences to come and to taste the food, to listen to a dialogue between the chef and the artist. And my God, the number of people that would come, it was incredible. The first year was great, the second year was better, and then the chefs realized we need so much food for the people who would come. But what made me really happy is to see people who never came to the museum before come and participate and walk in and share. And so that was, that was something that I, really, really liked seeing.
Just on that point, you were telling me a bit about your experience working in Qatar and how it was kind of a challenge. I mean, we know in the Gulf now we have a lot of these incredible institutions that are being created, like the Museum of Islamic Art in Doha, but how to draw people in and how to get those to engage with the population.
It was.
So how are you doing that? You mentioned
it wasn't
this one
an
thing
easy.
in Bahrain.
It wasn't an easy role. I mean, in Doha, I was actually I had the privilege to be there before the Museum of Islamic Art opened, and I was setting up an education center together with many colleagues who, loved art, loved culture, loved engaging with different audiences, and it was tough. It was tough to have schools come in. It was tough to have, audiences at lectures. And we started small, but it grew very big. And I think now the education center in Qatar is full blown. The programming is intense, dynamic, and there's a lot of amazing things that happen. But when I was living there, I remember having conversations with friends and members of the community, and I would say, so have you been to the museum? And people would say no. And I would, find that, not everyone, of course, but there's, certain people that never went. And for me, building a bridge between the museum and the community, and I'm not only talking about students, scholars, and just the average people within a community, it's important for them to feel that they can access a museum, they can walk in, they can see whatever is displayed. It's not, it's not only for the elite, it's not only for people who are in this field, it's actually a place for everyone. And sometimes I would come across people who would be like, oh yeah, we went 2 years ago. And it's crazy because, working in a museum institution, you have things happening every 6 months that change. I mean, exhibitions come and go. So I'd be like, I wish you come more often. There's a lot of work that's being put into place. And it's the same in Bahrain as well.
So the food was one way to kind of draw in
the Foodist culture was actually a great way of, bringing people in, and it was nice. And of course, we had the museum open at night. And at night, the dynamics are totally different. In the morning, you walk in, but at night, the lighting is special. You feel privileged because it's a smaller group and not, the public are not in as well. So these are some advantages. I want to share with you another video.
Cooking for me is a reason to get together.
الفكرة كانت إني أبحث عن بيس مناسب لي وللطهاة.
I really wanted Somaya to set the tone.
إحنا اخترنا نخلة في عملي الفني وفي أطباقهم.
She bring idea that I never think about.
الشيف بيير والشيف براين كانوا مبدعين فوق ما تصورت.
We have the same passion.
I couldn't be more excited about doing something completely different than what I'm used to doing.
الناتج الكلي راح يكون مبهر.
The collaboration between chefs who are living in Bahrain, I mean, the two chefs you saw actually work at the Four Seasons. And, they found it exciting that we knocked on their door to say, come on, pair up with an artist. And we have a fantastic, team that pairs up people, artists with chefs. So in one occasion, there was this fantastic Italian artist who lives in Bahrain and works with glass. And she was paired with a pastry chef who works with sugar. And, the combination between the sugar and the pastries and the art looked like food and the food looked like art pieces and people didn't want to, break into it and eat it. But I'll show you how the setting is done at the museum. Okay. This was done by a fantastic chef. Her name is Naris Qambar, and it was about the sea. So she used the oyster as her plate, and it was dates, but they were salty dates. So there's salted caramel dates. Anyway, it was a very interesting dish. Presentation was part of the experience, was part of the dialogue that happened between the artist and the chefs. And the setting of this would be very casual in the hall of the National Museum, and we would create a mood every time. And the artist that's on the chair on the right is Mayasa Suwaidi, and she was partnered with Chef Suzy from Italy, and their whole theme was based on tea. And so that was their collaboration. I didn't have time to do photos for everyone, but please look them up. They're on YouTube. You can see them and hear them speak.
That's one whole other means of outreach right now that you have is the incredible rise that we've seen of social media in the Gulf states and that way of connecting with people. And are you seeing those sorts of things affect the trends in art?
I think the connections are really important. I think it's important to reach out and to make sure you're heard. And it's like what this institution is trying to do. You're trying to tap into not only scholars, historians, or politicians, but also the general public, the youth, and to make these connections and to understand what people are trying to do, bring initiatives together. I also wanted to share with you some important, for me, this was really important because we at the Bahrain Authority for Culture and Antiquities have so many programming all year long. So I spoke about the annual art exhibition, but we also have a music festival that's been going on for the past 26 years. So every year it's a new number of artists that come and engage and musicians, and it varies from jazz to hip hop to classic. I'm actually flying back to Bahrain on Wednesday, and as soon as I arrive, it's the opening of the 26th edition of the music festival. But along those lines, we were trying to make a connection between music and art. So Nashaz is a group of young artists, and it was an exhibition taking place in Bahrain at the Art Center. For what they were trying to achieve is a link between noise, music, and art. And I wanted to share with you this particular room. It's the crying room. And if you can see, there's a sign for male only. So the artist, Mohammed Haddad, who's a musician, he came up with this installation and created a room for men only to come in and to put the headphones on, and the words they would hear is let go, let loose. You can be free with your emotions. You can cry. You can. So it's the crying room, and as you can see, there's our lovely curator, Shogil Alawi, sitting, and the tissues are next to her. But the artist was kind enough to allow us as ladies to walk in and engage. But the target was male audiences. But Nashaz is a great group exhibition that highlights how music, how sound affects who we are. And we hope to continue this with our next music festivals. It's nice to poke a little bit and see what music and young artists can do in that theme.
And that kind of reminds me, we've been trying to engage a lot more here at the Institute with arts across the Gulf, and there's definitely a strength and a growing trend towards more conceptual art in the Gulf. Are you seeing that in Bahrain as well?
Very much, very much. And this exhibition that parallels the music festival actually is mostly conceptual art. And the participants would say, oh, please don't call me an artist. I'm a musician. I'm just doing this to share an idea with people. I'm at the end of my talk. I hope I didn't bore you too much, but the end part is about who I am as an artist. So there are two things that I wanted to share with you. I wanted to share a little bit about my work. So I'm a painter mainly, and I'll show you some of my artwork. This is a series based on wings, so I'll share some with you and then a video. So this is the kind of work that I do. I am very abstract, and I work on very large scale, so 2x2, 3x3, so they're usually quite massive. And this is a black and white wing, and it's from the series of wings that I have done. I'll go to the other one. So I don't know why I keep going out, but it's okay. And this is a colored version of the wings. I'll blow it up a little bit. So this is the kind of work that I do. And I'm, as I started off my talk, I feel privileged to be really working under the umbrella of arts and culture, supporting, all initiatives under this theme. I'll end with a video piece that I have done. Started to talk to you a little bit about the Pearling Path and about the importance of it being open in the Kingdom of Bahrain. And I did a video piece that paid tribute to everyone who worked in the pearling industry, the fishermen, the pearl divers, and this is my contribution or my tribute to everyone who worked in the Pearling Path.
While she's bringing that together, maybe you can tell us a little bit about why the whole idea of wings was very attractive to you as a theme for your art, why it spoke to you.
I have always been very figurative in my art, so I'd always work with a lot of figures, and I go from one theme to another. Wings was quite, it stayed with me for a while, so I'm also very interested in human organs, in lungs and livers, and in what goes on inside. And I actually did a lot with under that theme, and it's and then the wings happened.
ليش عني
heard is very typical. It's called juri, and it's the music of the pearl divers, and it's what kept them going. And this music is very, very powerful, and it has a lot of praises, praises for the Prophet Muhammad, and it's for me it's a very powerful music that I wanted to use in this video. And this lady you saw, who, if you all were thinking, it is me. She was mourning the loss of her son, of her husband, of her father, and it was hard work going to sea for the pearl diving industry, to be away from your family. Women played a very, very strong role in the society. And, these ships would take off 4 months, 4.5 months, and you never know, are they coming back or not? So every ribbon, she was mourning a soul that she knew. So that was, my tribute to that. And that's as much as I have for this talk, but I'm happy to open a conversation with Kristin.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for sharing some of your own art with us. And I thought it was fascinating because it definitely brought in some of the themes that you said you're trying to bring out in Bahrain art too, trying to bring in the music along with the art. And it also speaks to something else that I've noticed has been a real trend across the Gulf, where there seems to be, with a lot of artists and especially filmmakers, I'm even thinking of one Bahraini film that I saw, drawing a lot more on tradition and looking sort of back in tradition. I was wondering if that's a theme that you see coming from the young artists that you're seeing, or just more broadly, what are some of the both conceptual themes or just in terms of the approaches that they're taking to art that you see coming in both Bahrain and the art that you see?
I think you're right, and I think heritage does play a huge role in how you want to make your art or what sort of message you want to say. For instance, with this piece, it was I knew I was going to do something regarding pearling, and I had this exhibition at Bin Matar House, which is a beautiful heritage home that was preserved, and it falls under the Sheikh Ibrahim Center for Culture and Research. And it's Beit Matar was a pearl merchant and a very prominent family. And when I was asked to do an exhibition at Beit Matar House, I decided to take the pearling path as not the pearling path, sorry, the pearling industry as something that I wanted to talk about. So this video was shown there, but I did something else that I don't have to share with you, but. The dome that you saw in the video is still used in Bahrain to catch fish. It's called gurgur, and it basically what it does, it entraps the fish. So the fish would go in through a tunnel, but won't be able to leave. It'll be in the sphere. And what I've done in the Bin Matar house is I built the shape, the gurgur. It was 6 foot tall and 3 meters wide, and you could actually walk in, and it was covered in the ribbons. So that was, the man who built it for me, I think he thought I was crazy. So I went to him and I said, can you build me a gurgur, 6 meters? And I drew and he said, I can. And he was doubting me, I was doubting him, and it was, it wasn't working well. But he built me a demo in an abandoned land in Galali, which is very close to Muharraq. So I would visit him and, have a conversation with him. And then the demo was demolished, and I told him, okay, now it's time to come to the gallery and to build it there. And I remember, he thought I was crazy, but it was built, and we covered it with the ribbons, and then we illuminated the gurgur from within, and we closed all the galleries, the light gallery. The galleries in there. Anyway, I'm sorry. It's not. And what happened was that the shadows of the ribbons was reflecting all around the room, and I think it was a good show, and people enjoyed it. And the day of the opening of the event, he was waiting for me outside, the guy who built it, him and his team. And he said, wide zine. And I said, thank you very much, wide zine, thanks to you, and he kind of saw the whole picture coming together, with the ribbons, with the lighting, so then it was, and he told me, he said, I'll do it anywhere you want, just let me know. But at the end of the exhibition, we had to, demolish the whole monster, the 6-foot gargour, and get it out of the gallery space. But I hope that answered your question.
No, it's
yes, I
interesting.
think going back to it, I think heritage and history, they're part of who you are, so it'll come out. Didn't come out in my wings, because that's a universal topic that anyone can share and can understand. But also, heritage topics are very important.
One last question for you, and then I want to open up and make sure you have a chance to talk with Shaikha Hala. I've been noticing to another trend throughout the Gulf as we speak to artists, and I want to just ask you in particular, because I know you've worked a lot in outreach at all, is the role that the arts can play in sort of social transformation. We see that now in Saudi Arabia as well, playing a really big role as they start to open up the kingdom. And I know in Bahrain too, there's been a lot of need. There's a lot of changes going on. You've had your own vision, sort of 2030, right? Before Saudi Arabia had their own vision, 2030. And of course, though Bahrain's a small island, you have a very pluralistic society, and also a lot of challenges. More recently, I think that we all know about. How can you kind of work through arts? What role do you see arts playing in kind of working within the community in Bahrain?
I mean, not because I'm under the umbrella of arts and culture, but I'm a firm believer that whatever, there's problems in every society, but I think art and culture are the language that can unify. And I'm not just saying it, I really believe it. I think it's an opportunity to come together, to share ideas, and to do exciting works that really build a bridge between city and village and country, and all of this. I mean, under the Bahrain Authority for Culture and Antiquities, we have a summer festival that takes place, and this summer festival is very big because it's a festival free of charge for all the families, all the communities living in Bahrain, and throughout a period of 1 month, there's a lot of programming within the summer festival. So there's art, entertainment, there's music, there's a variety of events. And what I wanted to share is that this summer festival actually builds bridges, because it goes from one town to a village to another location in Bahrain. And I think for this huge festival, and even though Bahrain is tiny, but it's nice to reach out, it's good to go and to connect, and and not be stationed in one place. And I think art and culture and exchanges of exhibitions and new initiatives really create a good platform for for growth. Absolutely, yeah.
Let's open up. I'm sure you have questions or like to engage with Shaikha Hala.
So how can art be more inclusive? How can it reach out to different segments of the society? And I'm here thinking of public spaces.
Yeah. Very important question, and you're right. I think in Bahrain there's so many initiatives, and spoke about Nashaz, which goes in parallel with the music festival. And what I go to these openings all the time, and I see how they're perceived and how dynamic they are. And I think we need to be more relaxed. We need to think of art as as a medium for everyone, really, whether it's in a museum or on the corner of your street. And speaking of public art, there's a lot happening in Bahrain, small initiatives by galleries, and even by us at the Authority of Culture. We have a couple of public arts, and they involve the community in a different level. You connect and you look, and it's part of your surroundings. So I think it's very important. And I wouldn't say the Bahraini art scene is only for the elite. I see diversity. I see a lot of people coming and engaging, and I don't see the barrier. I saw a little bit of that barrier when I would work, for instance, in education programs at the museum at Bahrain or in the museum in Doha when I was there. people would be a little bit more, oh, do we go? Do we not go? Can we participate? But when it's an exhibition, I think people do come more freely. So, yeah, we have to keep going. There's a lot of work to be done. And I think, you know, if you have the passion, the determination, and you open up new ideas, there's always good engagement that will come out of it. Please.
Yes,
Yeah.
kind of follow up
Yeah.
the same question.
Yeah.
Are you bringing people to the art, or you are going to the people?
We're doing both.
In what sense? I mean, the schools, for example?
There is an engagement with the community in terms of schools and people who would come and have guided tours. There's also at the Museum Authority, at the Bahrain Culture Authority, an important element, which are educational programs that follow with every festival, with every exhibition. And these are, you know, simple education worksheets that are, you know, targeting younger audiences, older audiences. People can pick them up and start doing them with their, you know, with their families. They're also downloadable, so they're on the website, and parents can actually download, or teachers. So yes, there is, and we have to reach out, and we have to make sure that our doors are open. But also it's important for us to take the talents from Bahrain to, you know, to various platforms around the world. Illuminate Asia, that was happening at the Smithsonian yesterday, was a fantastic example, because we participated with 3 elements. So there was Chef Bassam doing his food demos.
I saw it.
You saw. And I was there actually yesterday, but
Sorry, I didn't notice.
don't worry. I
She was covered in glitter,
I
apparently.
was bombarded with so many children, and I was there for many hours doing textile motifs, and I was covered in glitter. So, you know, it was very dynamic, though. But, you know, Foodist Culture, you know, started in Bahrain with this little initiative that grew year by year, and then suddenly Illuminate Asia was happening at the Smithsonian, and it was a great opportunity for us to send, you know, 2 of the artists and the chefs who participated there to tap into audiences here and share and connect and speak. So, yeah, this
So
is...
my other question related to you mentioned the history, or the storytelling of the woman. I mean, and big part of that society is over there are, most of them, it's the oral memory. It's not written.
Yeah.
How far you went through the oral history of the Bahraini people?
Thank you, because actually oral history is on my desk at the moment, and I have created this new project in the department to record oral history and to go and seek out the older generation of women and men. And we have been filming all through this month. Maybe next time I come here, I can bring some of this oral history and share it with everyone, because what we've done is we've put people on tape, and I'll show you after some images on my phone. But the older women who would say at the beginning, no, we're not going to do it, and, you know, we're not. And I have to sweet talk them. So I have to say, and I have to hold their hands and say that I'm going to be there. And they would tell me, if you're going to be interviewing us, then yes. So I dedicated so many days of my time last month to get these fantastic stories on tape and to hold on to them. So oral history is a big part of what we do, and inshallah we'll be able to put something together and share it with them.
Samaya?
Yes, hello, my name is Samaya Majdoub. I'm in Bahrain. Thank you so much for your presentation. I really enjoyed it. As you mentioned, Bahrain is a really diverse society and country. I was really happy to see the Little India Festival last year or 2 years ago. So the Indian community in Bahrain was one of the oldest communities, and the festival was sort of a celebration of that history, and it was a lovely, lovely initiative. So I always think about this sort of theme of you want cultural sort of initiatives to appeal to local Bahrainis, but also to others in the society. So how do you think about that? Being authentic, you know, having events in Arabic, but also having events in other languages.
Exactly. I mean, thank you, Sumaya. And Little India was a fantastic project. It brought together a lot of the Indian community living in Bahrain, together with people working in arts and culture and all of that. And you know, the festival was so dynamic. I mean, I was there. I had the privilege of, you know, of being involved in that platform, but in the heart of the capital, there's this fantastic street in Manama where there is a synagogue, there is mosques, there's a Hindu temple, and you know, there's shops of the Indian community, you know, whether it's a tailor or a fabric merchant that have been living there for, you know, over 100 years within the same shop, doing the same business generation after generation. So I think this was really important, and under the Cultural Authority, I think it's important to highlight how we're all connected, and this falls into place with our, you know, with our goals and our objectives, and art, music, culture, reaching out to people and creating these platforms is a great initiative. So the Little India project was, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, thank you, Sumaya, please.
I think you have a question. Oh, Adam.
Just
Adam.
a quick question, Shaikha. You know, art isn't free, and you and the Cultural Authority have spent a lot of time and effort to raise money for this. And I mean, Bahrain's not unique in needing to raise funds, but since you've been so active and have a really strong track record of success, I was wondering if you could share with us some of your and your mother's lessons learned in terms of, how do you separate rich people from their money?
Thank you. Thank you. You have a first-hand experience in that. Investing in culture was an initiative created by Her Excellency Shaikha bint Mohammed, the president of the Cultural Authority in Bahrain. And she started the Invest in Culture initiative, got a lot of people involved, and big banks, individuals were supporting the cultural initiative. I think I'm new to the cultural setting in Bahrain. I'm a new director. I've been there only for 2 years and a half. But what I saw is that the belief in the value of what they're giving to the Culture Authority. So the museum or a project or an event, if they were going to fund it, they're going to see the results instantly. So, you know, this also credibility for Excellency Shaikha and her vision to see the Invest in Culture initiative go through, I think is very important. It's important to have trust in who you're funding and what you're funding exactly. So we're learning from her, and we hope to continue this program, of course.
Excuse me. I think we had one question here.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi. So you mentioned earlier a bit about like social media and then the ability to build bridges.
Yeah.
My question is sort of in light of a number of government steps to crack down on free expression, generally, you know, jailing people like Nabil Rajab for interviews and tweets, for example. Is art a venue where people can explore their ideas and engage in open discourse at all in Bahrain? I know you said it has the potential to build bridges, but you know, how would you say that perhaps censorship or reprisals have impacted the art scene?
I actually think that there is, in the arts, there's, you know, there's always, you have to tackle topics, and there's freedom of expression, and, you know, and art has no boundaries. So I think everything is, you know, as long as I'm, you know, as long as what I've seen really is that it's an open platform, and people do share their thoughts, and artists are very expressive. So it's an open platform, definitely, for all artists to share and to show. And as you see, there's many examples. I hope that answered your question.
Would you say
in a way.
Free to share but without reprisal as well?
I mean, I've been involved in setting up so many exhibitions for the past 2 years and a half, whether it's the annual show or whether it's the Foodist Culture initiative or even the festivals. And I've never seen a problem. I think everything is very transparent and people can share. Yeah. And even in the arts, you know, because there's a lot of, for instance, with figurative representation, I mean, all of that is present in Bahrain and very much celebrated, really. I hope that answered your question.
Marcel, you had a question. Ambassador Wahba.
We've seen a growing number of young youth in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia who are into art.
Yeah.
But although many of them are hesitant to study art and become artists because they think that there are limited opportunities in that field.
Yeah.
What could you say to them, and what is the Commission of Art in Bahrain doing, of culture doing to help them?
But you're right, this is very important because I was very lucky because when I said I wanted to go to art school, I had the full support from my parents. And of course, I went to art school and then I ended up working in a cultural institution. It's important to the diversity of, subjects of what you can learn is endless. And I think art, in our present time in the Gulf, we're in a very good time because of the museum developments, of all the new opportunities, whether it's being, a researcher, a curator, or a restorer. So there are many, many opportunities. And I think families are opening up definitely to sending their kids to study art history, art and business, and to come back and to work in these wonderful institutions that are being built. So I think it's, at this present time, we're in a good state. Yeah.
Ambassador?
I have a question about the music or the soundtrack that we heard with your video.
Yeah.
My first introduction to this amazing sound was an article that I read in Aramco World about, and it's all human. It's all just the voice and the clapping. I think they had a name. Fajiri, and they called it the blues. Somebody put the name the blues of Bahrain to it. Is it still popular with younger Bahrainis, or have they come up with a new version of it? Is it still part of the cultural scene or not?
It is, and no, it is, and there's also a special dance that the men, would do, and it's called zifan, and it's very unique to Bahrain. And because I work very closely with traditional, these groups that perform the fajiri, so I see the grandfathers, and I see the sons, and I see the grandkids. So actually, one of our groups in Bahrain is touring at the moment in Japan. So they have a performance in many cities for the whole month in Japan. And not only the grandfather is there, but the son and the little, the boy who's learning from his parents. And I think this is very, very important. And at the Cultural Authority, we encourage them a lot. We make sure they know how valuable this is. And it's, an important part of who we are in Bahrain. And this music shouldn't be lost. In the heart of Muharraq as well, there's been a newly renovated dar. And dar is a term that we use for a music house or a place that plays the fajiri, or the men would gather up. But this specific dar is done so beautifully. It's called Dar al-Muharraq. And the architects actually covered the whole, but it's a renovated space. So and it's newly built. So it's on the plot of land where the old dar used to be. But the building is actually covered by a metal mesh, and the mesh resembles the fishing nets of the fishermen. And once the performance will start, and we play there every Saturday, starting from the month of October until before Ramadan. So if you're in Bahrain, please make sure to come and visit Dar al-Muharraq. But back to the curtain, so the curtain would be covering the building, and before the performance starts with the fajiri, it would actually move up. And the doors of the dar would be open, so inside is out and out is in, and the engagement is fantastic. And everyone in that neighborhood would be, the children, the mothers, the visitors. So it's quite intense, and it's important for us to hold on to the heritage, to hold on to the music, and make sure the new generations would actually keep doing it. And we're here to celebrate it as well, because it is beautiful, and it does resemble the blues in a funny way. I will bring them to you. Let me know when.
I attended the Cultural Summit in Abu Dhabi which I guess they're kind of have an intention to be sort of the Davos of culture or something, to start bringing it into the Gulf region, which tells you about some of the ambition of the arts in the Gulf. And I was really fascinated to see some of these same groups like that integrated in with some very high conceptual art pieces. So sometimes it's interesting just to see the mix between the old and the new. I think we had one more question here.
Hello. Hi.
Thank you for showing us everything about Bahrain. I'm personally from Kuwait. I've never had the honor of visiting Bahrain.
Sure.
But we've all heard so many great things about the cultural scene in Bahrain in particular. I wonder to what extent the Cultural Authority considers using culture as a tool for diplomacy in the Gulf in particular. So I think Kuwait and Bahrain are very similar in terms of their thriving cultural scenes. Bahrain is a bit more advanced than us. We'll catch up with you guys at some point. But I think in Saudi, as Kristin mentioned, there have been attempts. In Hayel, for example, they've had performances. Women aren't performing yet, but I think it's a step forward. So I wonder if, for example, the Cultural Authority has considered or is working with the MFA in Bahrain to perhaps assist other Gulf countries in developing their own cultural scenes. Is that something that's perhaps on
it's important to build bridges and definitely work. And you mentioned Hayel. I'm also a big fan of what happens in Jeddah, because there's the Jeddah Art Week, which is a great initiative under the Mansouriya Foundation, and it opens up. It sends artists to Paris and to Europe, and to have these residencies and come back. The artistic tapestry in Jeddah is a really great platform and each in their own field, and however the opportunities come. But I think there's always an open door to work together and work towards creating these dialogues and building these bridges. And it's important because the more we know about the other, the easier it is to understand and to appreciate. But there's a lot happening in the Gulf at the moment, and there are, for instance, in 2018, when Muharraq will be the capital of Islamic culture, we have two very important collections, one coming from Dar al-Athar al-Islamiyya in Kuwait to the Museum of the National Museum in Bahrain. We also have an important art collection from Al-Mansouriya Foundation in Jeddah coming to Bahrain. And these exchanges are, I think, key. I hope I answered your question properly.
Yeah,
sure,
go ahead. One of the arguments sometimes for objection to further developing the cultural scene, especially in terms of theater and music, would be based on religion. I think Bahrain is more pluralistic than many other societies. So I wonder what advice you would give to societies that are still dealing with that debate of striking that balance between preserving your own cultural and traditional values as well as developing that scene.
I mean, back to Muharraq, capital of Islamic culture, for instance, we are highlighting throughout the whole programming of the year what unites us as Arabs, as Muslims. So, yes, there's the calligraphy, there's the art, there's the architecture, there's the religion, but also there's the music, which also plays a big role in who we are as Muslims and as Arabs, and we need to celebrate that as well. But I think from my experience working in this field in Bahrain, I've never there was never an issue really of what to have or what to bring or what's allowed or what isn't. I think ballets are there and we see them and they come and they perform, and other forms of music and of events. I think for other, going back to your questions, for other countries that are a little bit more reserved, I think we're living in a very quick changing place, and you see how Saudi has opened up to so many new initiatives. So I think more and more this worry will not be there, and I'm very, very optimistic as well. And I think we're starting in a very good place, and we can achieve our goals, inshallah. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for a very informative talk.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. I was happy to be here.
Thank you.
My question is, I know you talked about festivals, but Are there any conferences, symposiums where you do a call for papers or abstracts?
Yeah.
And if so, how do you get that word out?
Absolutely. I mean, we just, there was a fantastic conference on museums just taking place in Bahrain recently. These conferences, always, happen, and they fall under various topics. Regarding the symposium, we're actually working on a sculpture symposium that's happening in November, and it's led by Adam Hanin, who's a prominent sculptor from Egypt, and he's old in age now, and we're very, very privileged that he agreed to look after the symposium happening in Bahrain. We're creating 12 sculptures by international artists that will be part of public art along the Pearling Path. So, as I told you, we're all in the cultural institution working towards the year of Muharrar, capital of Islamic culture. So these initiatives happen. The festivals, of course, take place. And there's so many scholars and historians and people in the museum fields that come and share their knowledge with us, of course.
So would you just look at your website, for example?
Yes, absolutely. Yes,
Okay.
Please, yeah.
And then, I don't know if you're aware, but in November, the beginning of November, VCU with the Richmond Museum of Fine Arts, they're having a conference on Islamic art, past, present, and future. Just putting that out there.
Thank you for letting
for the
me
room.
know. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Is that at VCU here or in? Because I know you're also in Qatar, right? So
It's in Richmond.
in Richmond.
In Richmond. Are you from VCU?
Virginia Museum of Fine Arts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Richmond is having
Yeah.
this symposium, biennial, 7th biennial.
Yeah. Great. Oh, wonderful. Maybe one last question? Anyone? Or should we go ahead and close? I guess I want to thank you. It was really a pleasure to have you, Shaikha. Hala, I hope that you'll keep us in mind as you're thinking about all of these new initiatives that are coming up. I know
Thank you
Ambassador
very much.
Marcel
It
is
was,
very interested in the music and the Bahrain
Thank
blues.
you very much. And I'm
so we hope that we'll be able to have you
أنا
another
عند
time.
كلمتي, whenever you want the fjiri, we can bring them for you here. We would love to. Thank you very much for having me. I hope whatever I spoke about was light and informative and, reached your hearts. Thank you very much. Thank you.